4, 5, 6, maybe 7.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was a big company, and
Yeah.
but as far as that department, I think there was probably 7,
Okay.
1,500
And so were
students.
you responsible for hiring them as well, or like they were already in
Yes,
place?
yes, but I was there for a short time, so some of them were there. I did hire a couple of people that I was very proud of hiring. So that is one thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually hired 2 people that were amazing.
Okay, great. And so what were you called your team like in terms of the position that was it a student services team, or what would you call it?
Yes, yes, student services. Student services
Okay.
department.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, and so in terms of ensuring that you were operating within parameters and guidelines in terms of compliance, so how were you ensuring compliance? Like, uh, did you have to work with different departments, or how were you ensuring that everything was compliant?
Um, we had weekly meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I monitored things, so I was kind of monitoring progress, attendance and progress, and that's something that you had to monitor daily. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of counseling and corrective measures for students. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it was counseling on the phone, and then procedurally was just kind of checking, making sure that things were done properly. We had a computer system that a CRM, or I can't remember what it was, but we had a computer system there that made it easier. It wasn't manual. I know when I worked at the school prior, the one I worked at for 11 years, everything was manual. So
Mm-hmm.
because because things were tracked in a database, the database checked for inefficiencies. So it would basically pull inefficiencies, and I would be able to kind of look at them, spot check them, make sure that everybody knew what they were doing, that they were trained properly. Again, making sure that the expectations were very, very clear. Does that work?
Yeah, it does. Okay. And in terms of counseling, you have mentioned that you increased student detention levels through counseling and implementing corrective action measures for 1,500 students. So, what was the issue with retention, and why was this counseling necessary?
I think that they weren't what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't implementing. I think it was just a lack of counseling. So people were
Mhm.
not attending classes, or people were not, showing up for classes, showing up for exams, showing up for makeup exams. So I put into place a system where, that we were contacting people. I don't remember specifically, honestly, but like if somebody missed like 2 days or something, that we would automatically, a phone call would go out. I don't remember the specifics of it. I just remember that it was very loosey-goosey, and they didn't necessarily
Mhm.
have what's the word? A structured program by where they would reach out to students. I think a lot of the reach out that they did was through email, but I actually would place a phone call. So I was on the phone a lot, talking to students, finding out why they weren't coming. And that was something
Mhm.
that I expected of everybody in the department, was to help out, making sure that we're making contact, having students come in, talk about why they were missing class and things like that, and kind of coming up with corrective measures and just encouraging them. So
Mhm.
I think that's it. So
Okay.
by
But
doing
with
that,
so
we
many
were able
students,
to, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that with so many students, so how was it, how were you able to track that which students were consistently missing classes, or those who need to be reached out to?
It was all done through a database in the computer. So all the
Mhm.
information was input, and then I would get daily reports. So every morning I would come in, I would get reports, I would see what's going on, who's missing what, and then I would have my team go into action. And then there were, people being placed on probation. But that's mainly what that department did, was work on student retention. And by
Okay.
working on retention, you were increasing your revenue, because when students drop out of school, then they're not paying the school, and then blah blah blah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, and so what were some of the student conflicts that you had to resolve? Like, what were some of them that you had to,
Issues with
witnessed?
instructors, personality conflicts, issues with other students, personal issues at home, child care
Yeah.
issues, any type of issues at all. During the time that I was there, I had an open door policy, so students could come in at any time to talk about what issues they were having. Some of them I was able to counsel. Others, we had resources available that we could help them find a resource, if they needed a food bank or whatever the case may be. We had a database to pull from to be able to provide resources to those students.
Okay. Okay, great. And wrote and implemented school policies and procedures resulting in higher departmental performance. So, weren't there any policies and procedures already in place?
Yes, there were, but they were dated. They were outdated. School policies. This is all kind of relating back to the whole thing, the student services part. It was looking at what the current practices were. They had written procedures and policies because you're required by the Department of Education to do so. But it was more of implementing and making, creating policies that we could actually follow.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and so inspected student files to ensure compliance. So, in terms of student file inspection, do we mean that you had to see that if all of the data was there or not?
Yes. So because of my background in financial aid, so I worked as a financial aid director for 10 years at another school. So because of my background in financial aid, I also took on file audits, because the Department of Education and the Accrediting Commission and would do random audits, and so I was able to go in and during the time that I was there audit the files to make sure that they were in compliance, and if they weren't, give them back to the financial aid department to make sure that they were. So that was was not even a role of a student services director, but because of my experience, I was able to do that.
Okay, that's amazing. So, anything else from this role of yours then?
No, I just want to get past this job because I hated it. I know I can't say that, but I hated everything about it, which is very unusual for me because usually I can find something good about everything, and this job was just rough. But it is what it is. That's why I don't work there anymore.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, and then you were the business development coordinator at Banner Metals Corporation.
Yeah, I feel the same way about this job. No, this one wasn't horrible. It was just they hired. So in this job, so this one's a little weird. In this one, they hired me to be a credit manager for somebody that was going to retire. And then when I started working there, she slowly decided she didn't want to retire. So this was a weird job. They had me kind of all over the place, bouncing around doing different things. So I tried to kind of narrow it as much as I could. I'd love to just take it off completely, but I don't know if I should. And then in that job, I was actually laid off. So,
oh, okay.
Do I have to have it on there?
Yeah, I think it's no harm in keeping it there, Peter, because it is one of your experiences. But then I really need to see, because a career is not a good thing on the resume, and I think a career gap.
Right. Yeah, I don't have any of those. So it's just that these two, because I spent 11 years at one job, and then for about 4 years, I bounced between these two companies that they didn't fit my culture. They didn't fit, until I found where I'm
Mhm.
at now. So I just, no, I went 11 years and then 7 years. So 3 jobs that I loved, and then I had 2 in between that were just kind of, just not a culture fit, and I just don't have good, wonderful feelings about them. But okay, if we must, we must.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I have to really dig into the archives in this one too, because I don't even remember what I did there. So.
Okay. But then, develop effective tracking system to ensure immediate and consistent follow-up. So, yeah, so tracking what that if the customers has been reached out or not, or have they been responded to or not.
Yeah, so I created a database. I'm trying to remember. I created a database of and spreadsheets, and I don't believe that they had. I think I had to create this on my own, if I'm not mistaken. So it was kind of old school, but yeah, I took this was for outside and inside and outside sales both. They didn't really have
Mhm.
a way of tracking follow up. So I started having weekly meetings, and then created a tracking system so that I could keep track of who was going where. And then I would also let them know, like, hey, you need to go here, hey, you need to go there. So I kind of, not only did I create it, implemented it, I monitored it as well.
Okay. And so were you managing any team in this role?
No, there was no management. It was literally hired to do one thing, bounced around until I was laid off because the lady decided she wasn't going to leave. So I'm
Okay.
surprised they kept me as
Weird.
long as they did. Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I just found
Yeah.
opportunities there to do things, and I think I just kind of found like, oh, here's something that I can do where I can maybe create some value. So
Yeah. Okay. And so, created and qualified new business opportunities for outside sales representatives through cold call prospecting and reaching. Okay. So, yeah, so researching construction bulletins, current industry trends, and lead lists. So, construction bulletins, okay. Yeah, I think it makes sense.
yeah,
So, but
I
then,
mean, yeah, that's
any particular
self-explanatory.
example of, yeah. Yeah, so
Wait, what's
any
that?
particular example of, yeah, so any particular example of the new business opportunities that you were able to find for them?
Yeah, I mean, I basically just reached out to steel companies. I reached out to the companies and asked them if they'd be willing to allow our salespeople to come out and talk about our services. And so I did. I was
Okay.
able to open up the doors for some of our outside salespeople to be able to go out and communicate and establish new relationships with with customers that needed to buy steel.
Okay, that's great. But do you have any number in place, or did you ever
No,
get to know?
no, it was
Okay,
such a short period of time that no.
okay, okay. And so created and implemented an innovative new system that streamlined communication between inside and outside sales representatives. So yeah, so what was that all about?
That's kind of the same thing of what I was talking about. So maybe that's the same thing. I had weekly meetings, met with inside sales. So I created the tracking system, put it in place, and then also, let's see. I think this was more just I was continually communicating with the inside people, outside people, so they had somebody that they were held accountable to before they were just
Okay.
kind of flying by the seat of their pants. But I actually created opportunities, communicated with them every single day. They also called if they had new clients that they wanted to do credit applications. So I would coordinate that with the credit people so they could just kind of hand them off to me. So I just kind of created this position for myself.
Okay.
And it was effective, but it was short lived. It wasn't very long. So
Yeah. Okay. And then increase business by assigning new and existing accounts to inside and outside sales representatives. So, so
same.
like, how were you just assigned the accounts and it was their responsibility to reach out and cold call?
Yeah, I did most of the calling. I did the calling and
Oh,
kind of laid the groundwork, and then sent the people out, sent the inside people, outside people. I kind of established who, like, oh, this is a new client. I need, one of the outside people to go out and talk to this person, or this is somebody I got on the phone and they actually need to order some steel. So let me give this to the inside person. So,
Okay.
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Okay. And so interacted daily with sales and credit departments, providing support with research, verification. Okay. So was it all about just updating sales personnel with, the credit check requirements and everything?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
self-explanatory.
Yeah. Okay, great. So anything else from this particular role?
No, please.
Then you were also the business manager at the same place.
Okay, yeah. So basically, when I first started there, like I said, they wanted me in a certain role, so they didn't know where to put me. So
Mm-hmm.
so basically I was doing, or did I start with that? Yeah, they were using like old time cards, like punch